In the cold dark of space, the stars were silent, but on Earth, the largest telescope picked up something strange, a faint signal so weak that it almost got lost in the background noise. At first, the scientists thought it was just space static random, waves bouncing through the void. But then the pattern repeated again and again, a rhythm like a heartbeat. It was not natural. The lead scientist, Dr. Hayes, ran the signal through old data archives and froze in shock. The frequency matched an ancient ship engine code never used by humans. The code was older than recorded history, older than Earth itself. Soon the International Space Alliance was called in, and a meeting was held in a sealed underground chamber. Only the top commanders and scientists were present after hours of debate. They made a decision they would send a crew to the source of the signal. The chosen ship was the Horizon. The most advanced exploration vessel humanity had built. Its hull could withstand black hole gravity, its engines could cross the galaxy in weeks, and its crew were the best of the best. Captain Elias Grant led them, a man known for staying calm under fire, his second-in-command. Commander Lin was a tactical genius. Their pilot was a young hotshot named Vega, and their science officer, Dr. Nia Roberts, was the one who first decoded the signal. After days of preparation, the Horizon launched, leaving Earth's atmosphere like a silver arrow heading for the far edge of the galaxy. As the days passed, the crew grew uneasy. The signal grew louder, more precise, as if it knew they were coming when they finally reached the coordinates. There was nothing at first, just endless black. Then something moved in the shadows of the stars. At first it looked like a small planet, its surface dark and lifeless. But as the Horizon drew closer, its true scale became clear. It was not a planet, it was a machine. A warship so massive it could have moons orbiting it. Its surface was made of a black metal that seemed to swallow light. Ancient markings ran along its hull, glowing faintly like veins of fire. It hung in space, dead and silent, yet the signal still pulsed from within. Dr. Roberts sent out a probe. The small drone zipped toward the giant structure, entering through a massive cracked gate. For a moment, the drone's camera showed vast corridors the size of cities' walls covered with unknown symbols. Then, for a split second, two huge mechanical eyes flashed in the darkness before the feed went black. The crew stared at the blank screen in shock. The Horizon's hull shuddered slightly, as if touched by a wave of invisible energy. Then every system on the ship flickered, lights dimmed, consoles rebooted, and for a heartbeat, the crew felt weightless, floating in silence. Then the ship's main screen lit up, showing a single word written in every human language. Awaken. Captain Grant's hands tightened on the controls, his voice steady but low. Prepare for contact. The Horizon floated in the shadow of the massive warship, its black surface stretching beyond sight like a sleeping giant in the dark. The crew could feel its presence, as if the metal itself was watching them. Captain Grant ordered a full scan. Dr. Roberts reported the hull was made of an unknown alloy, harder than anything in human technology. The readings showed millions of chambers inside, some the size of cities, others larger than entire countries. Commander Lin pointed out the massive weapons embedded in its surface, silent for who knew how long. The crew was tense. Vega, the pilot, kept glancing at the sensors, which showed faint energy spikes deep inside the structure. Grant ordered a second probe with reinforced shielding to enter through another opening. The probe drifted inside its lights, cutting through the dark, revealing corridors so vast they could hold skyscrapers. The walls were lined with strange machines, like frozen muscles, veins of light pulsing slowly through them, as if the ship had a heartbeat. The feed showed massive doors sealed shut with symbols glowing faintly, and then suddenly the probe stopped as a shadow fell over it. From the darkness came a shape so large the drone's camera could not capture it fully, only a gleam of metallic skin and a flash of those same mechanical eyes before the signal cut out again. Moments later, the Horizon shuddered as a deep vibration rolled through space. the sound not carried by air but felt in their bones. The crew exchanged nervous glances, and then without warning, the entire warship began to move slowly, its colossal bulk turning like a planet, changing orbit. The black surface came alive, with patterns of golden light racing across it, forming what looked like a galactic map, stars and planets appearing in perfect detail. The crew watched in awe as the lights connected into battle lines and symbols that none of them understood yet, felt strangely familiar. Dr. Roberts' voice was shaking as she explained the ship was transmitting an energy wave unlike anything seen before. The wave disabled every system on the horizon for a moment, leaving them drifting powerless in the void. Then just as suddenly, their systems returned, the warship stopped moving, the golden map still glowing across its surface. Captain Grant realized it was trying to communicate. Nia Roberts worked frantically to decode the patterns and found fragments of a story burned into the light. The ship had been asleep for millions of years, waiting for a signal, not from humans but from something else, something it called the enemy. She explained the ship's builders were a race, long extinct, wiped out. In a war that stretched across galaxies, the warship was designed not as a single weapon, but as one of many titans built to stop the enemy's advance. Grant frowned, asking if the enemy could still be out there before she could answer the horizons. Sensors screamed warning. A group of fast-moving objects was approaching from the far side of the star system. Commander Lin pulled up the visuals, dozens of black-spiked ships racing toward them, their design nothing like human craft or the Titan warship. They looked organic alive, like creatures forged from metal. The massive warship's lights flared brighter, its colossal weapons unfolding from its sides like the limbs of a god waking from a nightmare. The Horizon's crew braced themselves for an attack, but the weapons were not aimed at them. Instead, they locked on the incoming fleet, and in a single burst of energy, the Titan fired one shot, a beam of pure white light tearing through the darkness. The enemy fleet vanished in an instant. Nothing left but drifting ash in the void. The crew sat in stunned silence, realizing they had just witnessed the destruction of an entire fleet. In seconds, Dr. Roberts whispered that this was only a fraction of the Titan's power. Then, a thought chilled them. The signal they had detected weeks ago was not a warning to humanity. It was a distress call, and the Titan had been waiting not for them, but for reinforcements to arrive before the enemy could finish it off. Captain Grant knew this. Meant something far worse. If there was one enemy fleet, there would be more. Vega confirmed the sensor readings showed faint traces of similar energy signatures scattered across the galaxy. The Titan slowly turned its massive form toward the horizon, its glowing lights shifting again into symbols. And then a new message appeared this time. In one language, the ship's deep synthetic voice echoed through every speaker in the Horizon's hull. "We are not enough. The enemy will return. You must find." The others, Dr. Roberts quickly asked what others, and the answer made the air feel heavy. "There are more of my kind hidden in the stars, buried where the enemy cannot see. Awaken them before the devourer comes." The lights on the Titan dimmed slightly. As if it had used great energy to speak, the Horizon's crew stared at each other. The idea of more planet-sized warships lying dormant, waiting for awakening, was almost impossible to imagine. Yet now they had proof. Captain Grant straightened and ordered Vega to plot a course to the coordinates being transmitted by the Titan. Dr. Roberts looked at the data and her eyes widened. The locations were scattered in dangerous places, gas giants, asteroid fields, and even inside a dying star. Lin muttered that this was a mission they might not survive, but the captain replied that if they failed, no one would survive. The Titan shifted away from them, moving toward the edge of the system, its golden lights fading into blackness once more as if going back to sleep. The Horizon's engines roared to life. The crew silent, each lost in their thoughts of what was coming ahead. As the ship accelerated toward the first location, Grant's voice broke the silence. One sentence that made the weight of the mission sink into their bones. We just became part of a war that started before Earth was born. The horizon cut through the darkness of space, its engines burning bright against the void as it raced toward the first set of coordinates given by the Titan warship. The crew spoke little, each of them still replaying the destruction of the enemy. Fleet in their minds. It had taken only one shot, one blinding strike to erase dozens of ships, and if the Titan was right that power was still not enough to stop what was coming. Dr. Roberts worked at her console, eyes scanning the streams of alien data. The Titan had sent the information spoke of ancient battles of worlds, torn apart, of millions of lives lost before humanity had even existed. The coordinates led them to a barren star system with only one massive object, a frozen moon, drifting. In the shadow of a red giant star, sensors showed no signs of life, no power, no movement. But the readings from the moon's core were strange, layered energy signatures pulsing like a faint heartbeat. Vega brought the horizon into orbit around the moon, and Captain Grant ordered a full scan. The results were shocking. The moon was not a moon at all, but the armored shell of another Titan buried deep beneath ice and rock, as if the builders had hidden it away from sight. Commander Lin noted that the energy readings were unstable, like the Titan inside was dying or trapped. The captain made the call they would try to wake it. Dr. Roberts uploaded the same activation signal the first Titan had used, but nothing happened. She tried again, increasing. The signal's strength, still nothing. The crew began to wonder if this Titan was beyond saving when suddenly the ice cracked. With a sound so deep it rattled the horizon's hull, massive fissures spread across the moon's surface as glowing light seeped through like molten rivers. The temperature around the planet-sized shell spiked sensors, screaming warnings. Then, with a deafening roar in the vacuum of space, the outer crust exploded, sending shards of rock and ice spinning into orbit. The crew watched as something impossibly huge rose from the wreckage, its black armor glinting with streaks of silver scars. Its form similar to the first Titan, but more angular, more heavily armed, its movements slow, as if waking from an endless sleep. The lights along its hull flickered erratically like a heartbeat struggling to find its rhythm. The horizon's comms crackled with a deep, rumbling voice, speaking in an alien tongue. Dr. Roberts' translator worked furiously to convert the message. Into human words, the Titan was disoriented, confused, asking who had woken it. Grant introduced himself and explained that the enemy had returned and the first Titan had sent them to find the others. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the Titan's lights flared brighter and it spoke again, saying that it had been hidden here since the fall of the Great Line, the last stand against the Devourer, and that it had not expected to ever awaken again. Its systems were damaged. It could not fight at full strength without repairs, but it would still join the defense of the galaxy. The horizon moved closer, scanning for access points to deliver repair drones. As the crew worked, the Titan's sensors suddenly lit up, detecting incoming objects. Multiple, fast-moving signals. Vega pulled up the visuals, revealing more of the black-spiked enemy ships, the ones that had attacked before. Only this time they were larger, and they were not alone in the distance. A shape moved through the darkness so massive, it dwarfed even the Titan. At first it looked like a drifting asteroid, but then its surface shifted and split apart, revealing rows of circular maws glowing with red light. Dr. Roberts whispered the name the first Titan had spoken, the Great Devourer. The second Titan's voice deepened with urgency, telling the horizon to retreat, that it could not hold off such a creature in its weakened state. But Captain Grant refused, saying they would stand together. The Devourer moved closer, its strange, organic hull writhing like a living nightmare. Smaller enemy craft swarmed forward. The second Titan unleashed its weapons, a storm of golden beams cutting through dozens of them, but the Great Devourer seemed unaffected, its massive maws opening to release a pulse of energy that slammed into the Titan's shields. with terrifying force alarms blared through the horizon as their own systems faltered under the shock wave. Commander Lin shouted that the Devourer was scanning them, learning from every attack, adapting just like the enemy fleet had. Before Grant ordered Vega to target the Devourer's eyes, the glowing red orbs lining its front. Vega's shots struck true momentarily, blinding it, giving the Titan a chance to fire its main weapon, a blast so bright it lit the frozen world behind them. The beam tore into the Devourer's hull, leaving a smoking wound that oozed streams of black liquid. But even wounded, the creature pressed forward. The Titan told Grant that only the full force of the Great Line could destroy it, and that meant finding and awakening every remaining Titan before the Devourer reached Earth. The Horizon deployed repair drones to help the Titan while it continued to hold the line its weapons. Flashing again and again, the battle raged for what felt like hours until the Devourer finally pulled back, vanishing into the deep with its remaining fleet. The second Titan floated in silence, its lights dim from exhaustion, but it sent one last message. The enemy will return stronger next time, and they will bring the darkness with them. The Horizon's crew understood the meaning. Earth was now on the path of the Devourer, and time was running out. Grant gave the order to set a course for the next set of coordinates, knowing that every day they delayed the enemy drew closer as the Horizon's engines ignited, and the wounded Titan followed the stars ahead seemed colder, darker, as if the galaxy itself knew that war had begun. The Horizon and the two awakened Titans moved through the dark between the stars, guided by the next set of coordinates the first Titan had sent. The crew remained tense. Every scan of the surrounding space brought the fear of another enemy attack. Dr. Roberts studied the battle recordings frame by frame, noting how the smaller, black-spiked ships changed shape during combat, as if they were alive, adapting to every weapon strike. She explained to Captain Grant that the enemy's technology was not just mechanical, it was biological, evolving in real time. And the Great Devourer was not simply a ship, it was a living organism older than the Titans themselves. Vega kept the Horizon close to the Titans, knowing that alone they would be easy. Prey in the vast emptiness ahead lay the outer rim, a stretch of space so far from the galactic core that light from nearby stars was weak, and the void seemed endless as they neared the coordinates. They found themselves in a region littered with the remains of ancient battles, broken ships drifting silently, some still carrying the scars of the same red energy blasts used by the Devourer's fleet. Suddenly, the sensors screamed multiple contacts appearing from the darkness. No warning, no comm signals, only the sharp shapes of enemy vessels emerging like predators from a shadow. The Titans powered their weapons, golden light running across their hulls, but the enemy did not charge. Instead, they spread out surrounding them, forming a wall of black steel. In the distance, a massive silhouette emerged larger than the first fleet command ships, its jagged body bristling with weapons, and in its wake followed smaller ships, each dragging what looked like broken fragments of planets. Captain Grant realized with horror that they were dragging resources, feeding material to the Great Devourer somewhere behind them. The lead enemy ship broadcast a strange pulse, and for a moment the Horizon systems glitched, screens flickering. Before stabilizing, Dr. Roberts warned that the pulse was a scan mapping their technology, so it could be countered in the next engagement. Commander Lin reported more enemy signatures closing in from the far side, trapping them. The first Titan sent a tight beam message to Grant, telling him the enemy had studied them in the last battle and would now test their limits. The second Titan warned that if they stayed here, the enemy would pin them until the Great Devourer arrived. Then, without further delay, the lead enemy ship opened fire. Streams of red energy cutting through the void, striking the second Titan's shields, which flared and dimmed under the assault. The Horizon moved fast, dodging incoming fire while launching counterstrikes with its railguns, but the shots that landed on enemy ships did little damage. The Titans unleashed their main weapons, vaporizing several attackers, yet for every ship destroyed, two more seemed to appear. The battle turned into a deadly dance, beams flashing, Across the darkness, explosions blooming silently in space. The Horizon's pilot Vega spun the ship through debris fields using broken hulls as cover. The crew could see enemy ships crawling over the remains of ancient vessels, tearing them apart, to absorb their metal into their own bodies, as if feeding Dr. Roberts suddenly shouted that the Titans should stop firing, repeating the same attack twice. She had realized the enemy adapted after seeing a weapon used more than once, meaning they had to change tactics. Every strike, the first Titan responded immediately, switching to different energy patterns each time, while the second Titan began firing at debris to create shrapnel clouds that tore into the enemy hulls with random, unpredictable force. The strategy worked for a while, slowing the enemy advance. But then the lead ship changed form, its hull opening like a mouth to reveal a swirling red core. It fired a massive beam that split the debris field in half, slicing through space. Dangerously close to the Horizon, Vega barely pulled them clear as the beam passed so near that the hull's metal glowed from the heat. Grant demanded a target on the lead ship, but the Titans explained that destroying it would trigger a summoning signal to the Devourer they needed to escape without giving away the location of the remaining Titans. The first Titan fired a massive blast, not at the enemy, but at a small asteroid cluster nearby. The explosion created a wave of rock and dust, blinding sensors giving them a short window. The Titans accelerated hard, the Horizon following close behind, weaving through the chaos of drifting stone. The enemy gave chase, but the dust cloud interfered with their adaptive targeting, slowing them down as they cleared the asteroid field. The first Titan broadcast a new set of coordinates to a system on the edge of the outer rim, saying that the third Titan was hidden there, deep inside a massive gas giant. Grant realized that this meant another dangerous retrieval mission, but they had no choice. The enemy fleet was regrouping and would be on their trail soon. The crew prepared for the next jump engines, humming with rising power before the jump. Vega took one last look at the dark shape of the lead enemy ship, now turning slowly, as if watching them leave. The moment the Horizon entered warp, the first Titan's voice came through the comm in a deep, resonant tone, warning them that the great Devourer was moving faster now, drawn by the scent of awakened Titans, and that every battle, no matter how small, was a beacon leading it closer. The stars blurred into streaks as they raced toward the gas giant ahead. The silence inside the Horizon, heavy with the knowledge that the war had only just begun. The Horizon dropped out of warp on the edge of a stormy gas giant, its swirling clouds stretching across a world so massive it could swallow hundreds of Earths whole. The Titans slowed their approach, their voices low over the comms explaining that somewhere deep inside those violent storms, the third Titan slept hidden for millions of years from the eyes of the enemy. Vega adjusted the Horizon's course, weaving between massive chunks of rock drifting in the planet's high orbit. The gas giant's gravity pulled at them constantly, threatening to drag the ship into its deadly embrace. Sensors showed lightning storms raging below each bolt, larger than entire cities. Captain Grant ordered full shields, knowing that even the edge of those storms could tear them apart. Dr. Roberts scanned the clouds, searching for the strange energy signature that would mark the Titan's resting place. After several tense minutes, she found it far below the upper layers of the storm, buried in a region where the wind speed was almost impossible for any craft to survive. The first Titan warned them that the gas giant was not unguarded. The ancient builders had placed guardians to protect their sleeping warships, and that whatever was waiting inside would not allow intruders to pass. As the Horizon descended, the clouds closed around them. Sunlight vanished, replaced by flashing storms. The ship shook under the force of winds, screaming past at thousands of kilometers an hour. Vega fought, the controls keeping them steady as lightning lit up the viewports, revealing brief glimpses of something moving in the storm. Something impossibly huge. The second Titan sent a warning pulse, moments before a shape burst from the clouds. A creature of metal and storm. its long, serpentine body twisting through the air with wings of crackling energy. Its eyes glowed white, and its roar, though soundless in the vacuum, seemed to vibrate through the horizon's hull. It was the Guardian of the Third. Titan built to destroy anything that tried to reach the sleeping giant. The first Titan moved forward, weapons glowing golden light slicing through the storm as it fired at the Guardian. The beams struck, but the creature twisted around them, moving. Too fast for such a massive form. The second Titan joined the attack, drawing its attention away from the horizon. Grant ordered Vega to dive deeper into the clouds, using the distraction to slip past, but the Guardian's tail lashed out from nowhere, slamming into the horizon's shields with enough force to send alarms. Screaming, the crew were thrown against their restraints as Vega fought to stabilize them. Dr. Roberts shouted that the Guardian was made of the same living metal as the enemy ships, and would adapt if they kept using the same attack patterns over the comm. The first Titan called for the horizon to assist targeting the creature's wings to slow it down. Vega lined up the shot and fired the horizon's railguns, tearing. Into one of the glowing energy wings, the Guardian screeched, twisting violently, giving the Titans a brief opening together. They unleashed a coordinated strike, golden beams and missile fire striking in rapid, unpredictable bursts. The Guardian staggered, and then the second Titan delivered a final shot that pierced its core. The creature froze its body, shattering into fragments of glowing debris that fell into the endless storm, with the Guardian gone. The clouds below began to shift, revealing the outline of the third Titan, its form half buried in swirling gas and ice. It was the largest yet, its armor plated with silver that reflected every lightning flash. As the horizon approached, its systems detected the activation signal from the first Titan. The sleeping giant stirred lights flickering across its surface, slowly rising from the depths. Its deep voice rumbled through the comms, asking who had called it back from the void. Grant explained their mission and the threat of the Devourer. The third Titan listened in silence, then spoke, saying it had seen the Devourer before in the last war, and that even with all the Titans awakened, victory had not been certain. It agreed to join them, but warned that the enemy was already close, and that the act of awakening it had surely been felt across the void, as if to confirm its words. The horizon's sensors lit up enemy signatures pouring into the system, the black-spiked ships emerging from the edge of the gas giant's rings moving. With predatory intent, the three Titans formed a protective wall around the horizon, their weapons flaring in the storm. The battle that followed was chaos. Beams of golden light cutting through the dark shapes, lightning from the storms striking. Friend and foe alike, enemy ships darting in and out of the clouds, forcing the horizon to fire at near point-blank range. The third Titan proved its power, unleashing a weapon, unlike the others, a gravitational pulse that crushed enemy ships into twisted wrecks without firing a single shot. After minutes of brutal fighting, the surviving enemy ships fled, disappearing into the void. But the Titans did not relax. They knew the Devourer would hear of this battle and come for them soon. The three giants surrounded the horizon, the first Titan transmitting new coordinates for the next search. Grant realized with dread that they would now be moving toward the most dangerous location, yet a dead star system where light itself struggled to escape, and where the fourth Titan supposedly waited as the horizon prepared for warp. The storms of the gas giant raged on behind them, hiding the remains of the Guardian and the empty space where the third Titan had slept for eons. The war for the galaxy had gained another giant, but the shadow of the Devourer was growing closer with every heartbeat. The horizon and the three awakened Titans tore through the blackness of space, following the new coordinates toward a system that lay in the shadow of a dead star, a place where even light seemed afraid to enter. Captain Grant stood on the bridge, staring at the dark ahead, his crew silent as the scanners struggled to pick up anything inside the system. The dead star at its heart was a collapsed husk, surrounded by drifting debris fields and the frozen remains of shattered planets. The Titans moved cautiously, their golden lights dimmed to avoid detection. Dr. Roberts explained that according to the first Titan's data, the fourth Titan had once been the commander of the Great Line, the fleet that had fought the Devourer in the last war. It had been hidden here after being badly damaged in battle. The second Titan warned that the commander's resting place was heavily guarded by an ancient defense system built not only to keep the enemy away but also to test any who would try. To awaken it, as they crossed into the system, the horizon's sensors picked up strange shapes moving among the debris. At first they looked like fragments of old ships, but then they shifted and turned, revealing long, spidery limbs and glowing red. Cores dozens of them clinging to rocks like parasites. Commander Lin called them machine wraiths, and the Titans confirmed they were the guardians of this graveyard relics, from the war programmed to destroy anything alive or dead that entered without. The proper command codes before they could react. The machine wraiths launched themselves through the void, moving far faster than their size suggested, their limbs cutting through asteroids like paper. The Titans opened fire beams of golden energy, flashing in every direction. But for each wraith destroyed, two more appeared from the shadows. The horizon weaved through the wreckage, its guns blazing as Vega dodged incoming attacks. A wraith slammed into their shields, sending a shudder through. The ship alarms screamed, and Lin reported shield strength dropping fast. Grant ordered Dr. Roberts to broadcast the activation signal for the fourth Titan, hoping it might override the Guardians, but there was no response. The second Titan shouted that the Wraiths had cut off all transmissions. They would have to fight their way to the commander's location. Vega pushed the horizon into a tight turn, diving through a narrow gap between two massive wrecks, enemy fire streaking past the Titans. Followed smashing apart Wraiths with precise blasts, but the Guardians adapted, shifting their movements to avoid predictable attacks. The first Titan called for the horizon to target the Wraith's glowing cores. Grant gave the order, and Vega's. Shots began piercing the weak points, causing the machines to explode in bursts of molten metal. Slowly the group carved a path through the swarm until a massive shape emerged from the shadow of the dead star. At first Grant thought it was another, Guardian. But as the light from the Titans touched it, the truth became clear. It was the fourth Titan, its body scarred and broken, its armor blackened from ancient fire, its lights almost completely dark. The size of it was breathtaking, even compared. To the others, its weapons silent and cold, as if it had given up long ago. More wraiths swarmed to block the approach, as if sensing they were close to success. The Titans roared forward, unleashing everything they had, beams, missiles, and gravitational, pulses ripping through the Guardians. The horizon joined the attack guns, firing until the barrels glowed. The path to the fourth Titan cleared for only a moment, and Grant seized the chance, ordering Dr. Roberts to send the activation code again. This time. The fourth Titan stirred a faint golden glow running along its shattered hull. Its voice came weak but deep, asking who dared to call it. After so long, Grant quickly explained the return of the Devourer and the need for all Titans to unite. There was a pause. Then the fourth Titan's lights flared brighter, and it said that if the Devourer had truly returned, then there was no time to waste. But first the graveyard must be cleansed. As it spoke, the fourth Titan's weapons came to life, one by one, each unleashing devastating fire that cut through the remaining wraiths like paper. In minutes, the battle was over. Silence, returning to the dead star system. The fourth Titan drifted closer to the others, its damaged hull still imposing. It thanked them for freeing it from the Guardians, explaining that it had been trapped in low power mode, unable to repair itself, while the Wraiths hunted any approach. The first Titan said they would head to the next location. But the fourth Titan warned them that the Devourer's vanguard had already entered the nearby sectors, and that soon they would no longer have the luxury of awakening one Titan at a time. Captain Grant felt the weight of those words as the Horizon's crew worked. To patch battle damage around them, the dead star loomed silent and cold. but in the hearts of everyone aboard, they could feel the shadow of something far greater drawing near. The hunt for the remaining Titans would now be a race against the darkness. The Horizon and the 4 awakened Titans moved together across the void, their formation like a wall of steel and light cutting through the black as they raced toward the next coordinates. But the mood on the bridge was heavy for the 4th Titans. Warning hung over them like a shadow. Dr. Roberts monitored deep space scans, and her face grew pale as she picked up faint gravitational distortions, at extreme range distortions too large to be caused by any ship in known history, she quietly told Captain Grant that it was moving in their direction, and that its size matched the descriptions in the ancient records. The great devourer Grant ordered the Titans to prepare for possible contact. But the first Titan explained in a grim tone that once the devourer set its path, it would not stop until it fed. It consumed worlds, drained suns, and left nothing behind but silence and cold. The second Titan added that it had fought the creature in the last war, and even the combined fire of the Great Line had only driven it back, never truly destroying it. As they pushed forward, the scans grew stronger, showing the devourer's approach from the far side of the galaxy, traveling at speeds that defied physics. Dr. Roberts played the old battle. Records from the First War showing how the creature tore through fleets as if they were paper, its body covered in living armor that adapted instantly to every strike, its maws opening to unleash pulses that could crack planets in half the crew. Watched in silence, Vega gripping the controls a little tighter. Then the Horizon's alarms screamed multiple hostile contacts ahead, a swarm of the black-spiked enemy ships rushing toward them like a tide. The Titans formed a battle line there, weapons lighting the darkness as the Horizon darted between them, firing on anything that got too close. The enemy fought with even more precision than before, changing tactics mid-battle as if guided by a single mind. Dr. Roberts confirmed that the Devourer was already controlling them remotely, using the fight to study the Titans and their defenses as the battle raged. The stars ahead began to dim as if swallowed by shadow. The crew turned to the view screen and saw it emerging from the darkness. The Great Devourer. It was beyond massive, so large that entire moons could vanish into its bulk. Its surface writhed with movement, as if billions of living creatures made up its body. Vast, circular maws glowed with red light, each one opening and closing in slow, hunger-filled motions. The Titans opened fire, unleashing everything they had: beams, missiles, gravitational pulses, but the Devourer barely slowed its armored hide, shifting and hardening where it was struck in seconds, adapting to the attacks. It released a wave of energy that slammed into the Titans, and the Horizon-alike shields flared and dimmed, systems overloaded, warning lights flashing across the bridge. Commander Lin reported damage to multiple decks, and the second Titan's voice came through strained with effort, saying its shields were nearly gone. Grant refused to order a retreat, knowing that if they turned their backs, the Devourer would follow them straight to Earth. The third Titan activated its gravitational weapon, creating a crushing field around the creature's nearest maw. But the Devourer responded by tearing through the field with brute force, sending a shockwave that shattered several smaller enemy ships in its path. Then it opened one of its central maws and unleashed a pulse that tore through space, the beam passing so close to the Horizon that the hull glowed white from the heat. Vega barely pulled them clear as the pulse continued into the void, vanishing into the black. The first Titan shouted that they could not win here. Not now. They had to fall back and find the rest of the Great Line before the Devourer grew too strong. With no other choice, Grant gave the order. The Titans fired one last coordinated barrage, not to damage the creature, but to create a blinding explosion in its path, using the wreckage of enemy ships to scatter debris. The Horizon and the Titans used the chaos to pull away engines burning at full power. As they raced into the shadows behind them, the Devourer slowed, not in defeat, but in cold patience, watching them go as if certain it would see them again. Soon, Dr. Roberts confirmed what everyone already feared: the creature was changing, adapting, even now, and the next time they faced it would. Be worse, much worse. The first Titan transmitted a final urgent message to all the others. We have less time than we thought. Every Titan must awaken before the Devourer reaches the core worlds. Captain Grant stared out at the streaking stars as they entered warp, feeling the weight of the entire galaxy pressing on his shoulders, knowing that every second they delayed, the hunger behind them grew closer and stronger. The horizon and the four Titans emerged from warp at the edge of the outer rim, a lawless frontier of scattered colonies, mining stations, and ancient wreck fields where the central government's control barely reached, and where the Devourers, Vanguard, could hide among the chaos. Captain Grant knew this was where the next Titans slept, hidden somewhere in the broken remains of a war long forgotten, but even before their scanners finished sweeping the area, they picked up distress signals. From multiple settlements, the signals were fragmented, but all carried the same desperate tone. Enemy ships attacking from every direction. The first Titan warned that the enemy had moved faster than expected, spreading through the rim to destroy communications and cut off reinforcements. If they took control here, they could choke the supply lines of the core worlds and slow the Titans' mission to a crawl. Grant ordered the Horizon and the Titans to split their approach, the Horizon moving to intercept the largest group of enemy ships while the Titans shielded the most populated stations. Vega pushed the engines to the limit, weaving through asteroid fields, while Commander Lin tracked incoming fighters on the tactical display. Dr. Roberts reported that the signals matched the same Devourer-controlled fleet patterns they had seen before, meaning every battle here was feeding the creature more data. To adapt, the first clash came fast, a swarm of black-spiked fighters bursting. From the shadow of a fractured moon, the Horizon's guns blazed, cutting through them as Vega darted between their lines, but the enemy adapted quickly, shifting their attack angles to exploit weak points in the ship's defenses. The Titans arrived. In a burst of golden light, smashing into the larger enemy ships with precision fire, each blast tearing through hulls and scattering debris. But the swarm kept coming wave after wave. The fourth Titan reported that the enemy was not trying to win. Outright, they were stalling, delaying them so reinforcements could arrive. Then the trap sprung a massive enemy. Dreadnought emerged from the debris, its hull bristling with weapons that crackled with unnatural energy. A pulse shot from its core, slamming into the Horizon's shields and forcing the ship into a violent spin. Vega fought to stabilize, while Lin shouted about incoming boarding craft. Grant gave the order for internal defense teams to hold the corridors as the first enemy units breached. Their hull, the fighting inside, was brutal. Narrow passageways filled with flashes of gunfire and the echo of metal against metal. The enemy troops were part machine, part living biomass, their limbs sharp and adaptable. Dr. Roberts sealed sections of the ship to slow them down, but more kept pushing in. The Titans moved to engage the dreadnought, but were intercepted by enemy cruisers, each sacrificing themselves to hold the Titans back as the boarding fight raged. A sudden transmission cut. Through the chaos, a deep, resonant voice unlike any they had heard before saying, "I hear you, children of steel and flesh. I have slept too long." The crew froze, recognizing the voice of the fifth Titan somewhere hidden in the wreck field it had been. Watching them, and waiting for the right moment to reveal itself, Grant called out, identifying himself and explaining their mission. The voice replied that it would aid them, but first they must survive long enough for it to rise from the darkness. Then, without warning, an entire section of the asteroid field began to shift, massive stone-like fragments falling away to reveal a colossal shape beneath the fifth Titan, its hull engraved with ancient markings and its weapons already warming. The enemy dreadnought turned all its guns toward the awakening giant, but the fifth Titan fired first, a beam of pure white energy so bright it carved through space, slicing the dreadnought in half. The remaining enemy ships broke formation, scrambling to retreat. But the fifth Titan was relentless, tearing through them one by one as the Horizon's crew pushed the last of the boarders into the void. The battlefield fell silent debris, drifting slowly under the light of distant suns. The fifth Titan, moved closer, its voice steady but filled with urgency, saying that it had sensed the Devourer's hunger growing and that the creature had already consumed 2 frontier systems in the past cycle. Captain Grant knew there was no time to rest repairs. Would have to be done on the move as they prepared to head for the next coordinates. The 5th Titan warned that the Devourer's shadow had already reached beyond the rim and that soon even the core worlds would feel its presence the horizon. And the now 5 awakened Titans turned toward the darkness ahead, their engines burning bright against the endless void as if daring the hunger to come for them. The horizon and the 5 awakened Titans pushed through deep space at maximum speed, engines burning so hot that the ship's hull shimmered from the strain, but Captain Grant refused to slow down because every new scan from Dr. Roberts brought worse news. The Devourer was moving faster than before, covering distances in days that should have taken weeks, and entire star systems were going dark without a single distress call, as if they had been swallowed whole. The 5th Titan reported that it could sense the creature's presence like a growing storm in the void, each pulse of its hunger reaching farther than before. Commander Lin watched the tactical display where the map of the galaxy was slowly being overtaken by red zones. Showing where the Devourer's control was spreading, Vega flew with surgical precision, skimming past gravitational traps and debris fields while Grant coordinated with the Titans on an encrypted channel. The next Titan they needed to find was buried in the nebula of shattered glass, a dangerous sector filled with razor-sharp crystal asteroids and shifting electromagnetic storms that could rip a ship apart without warning. But the Titans said it was the only safe place left where the Devourer's senses could not easily reach. As they entered the nebula, visibility dropped to almost nothing. Shards of crystal drifting like frozen knives in the dark, their edges glowing faintly from the light of distant suns. The horizon's shields scraped against some of them, sending sparks across the hull, and Vega's hands were tight on the controls the crew worked in near silence. Tension hanging heavy because every sound of crystal grinding against metal felt like a warning. The 1st Titan took point, carving a path through the sharpest clusters with precision energy bursts, while the others formed a protective formation around the horizon deep inside the nebula. Dr. Roberts picked up something strange, a faint rhythmic pulse. Buried under layers of interference, it was a signal, but old, very old. The Titans confirmed it matched the resonance of one of their own. The 6th Titan, asleep somewhere ahead, Grant ordered all power to sensors, despite the risk of exposing their position, and slowly the signal grew stronger. But so did something else, an unnatural vibration in the crystal fields. The 5th Titan warned that they were not alone. A swarm of Devourer-controlled drones emerged from the shifting crystals. Their bodies sharp and angular, blending perfectly with the environment, they struck without hesitation, latching onto the horizon's hull and trying to tear through to the core. Vega twisted the ship hard, slamming some drones into nearby crystals while internal defense teams fought off those that breached the corridors. The Titans unleashed controlled blasts to shatter the larger groups, but every shot risked sending more crystal shards flying like shrapnel into their own formation. Dr. Roberts triangulated the 6th Titan's location, a massive crystal structure at the center of the nebula, its jagged spires wrapped around a dark metallic shape, almost completely entombed. The 1st Titan and 5th Titan moved in to cut through the crystal prison, while the horizon and the others held off the drones. But the vibrations grew stronger, and suddenly the crystal around them shifted violently, revealing it was not natural at all. The entire central structure was a living trap, a massive biomechanical predator under the Devourer's command, disguised as part of the nebula. It lashed out with tendrils of crystal and metal, trying to impale the horizon and crush the Titans in its grip. The 2nd Titan roared over comms, warning everyone to focus. Fire on the creature's core glowing faintly beneath the layers of armor, Grant ordered Vega to take the horizon dangerously close, weaving through the creature's thrashing limbs to deliver concentrated fire at point-blank range the Titans struck. In unison, their weapons tearing open the crystal shell until the core was exposed with a deafening crack. The creature screamed in frequencies that rattled the ship's hull, but before it could recover, the imprisoned sixth Titan awoke its weapons. Firing instantly with devastating force, it shattered the predator from within, sending shards and fire cascading into the void. The sixth Titan's voice joined the others deep and steady, saying it had dreamed of the hunger for centuries, and now that it was awake, it would not rest until the Devourer was destroyed. Grant wasted no time ordering the fleet to regroup and exit the nebula, but before they cleared the last cluster of crystals, Dr. Roberts warned that a massive gravitational distortion was forming behind them. The Devourer had found them a shadow so large it blocked the faint light ahead began to creep into the nebula. As the creature's tendrils reached through the crystal fields, the Titans formed a wall between it and the horizon, buying time for Vega to push the ship to full speed, and with one final burst, they broke free into open space, the Devourer stopping at the nebula's edge, not from inability, but from patience, watching them once again, as if letting them go for reasons no one could understand. The sixth Titan said in a quiet tone that the hunger was learning, and that the next encounter would be unlike anything they had faced before Captain Grant knew. There was no turning back now. The last Titans had to be found before the Devourer moved again, and every moment from here on would decide the fate of the galaxy. The horizon and the six awakened Titans raced across the stars toward the last set of coordinates, a location so deep in uncharted space that even the oldest star maps showed nothing but empty void. The sixth Titan spoke in a low voice over comms, saying the seventh and final Titan was hidden in a place where time itself flowed differently, a place even the Devourer feared to enter, but now the hunger was closing in faster than anyone expected, and the Titans knew they had only one chance to reach their last ally before the creature struck. The journey was brutal storms of charged particles battering the shields, strange gravity wells pulling at their hulls, and distant flashes of unnatural light hinting at battles happening in other parts of the galaxy. As the Devourer consumed system after system, Commander Lin monitored a constant stream of desperate transmissions from colonies across the core worlds, many begging for help that would never arrive. The crew's exhaustion was written on every face, but no one spoke of slowing down, because all of them understood the truth. Without the seventh Titan, they could not hope to face the hunger and survive. When they finally reached the edge of the hidden system, their sensors began to fail one by one, as if the space itself was rejecting them. The fifth Titan explained it was the effect of temporal distortion, an ancient defense mechanism created by the Titans long before humanity's first steps into the stars. Vega kept the horizon steady as waves of strange light rippled across the view screen, bending the stars into impossible shapes, until finally they saw it. A massive structure floating in the darkness, surrounded by fragments of shattered moons. The seventh Titan asleep and bound by enormous chains of energy glowing with runes so old even the Titans could not read them. The first Titan warned that freeing it would not be simple, because those chains were not just locks, but guardians, and as if in answer, the space around them tore open, revealing enormous constructs made of living metal, each shaped like a beast from forgotten myths, their eyes burning with the same hunger as the Devourer. But without its full intelligence, these guardians attacked. Without hesitation, their weapons slamming into the Titan's shields. While the horizon weaved between blasts, Vega's hands were a blur on the controls, avoiding fire so close that every pass left scorched trails along the hull. Grant ordered all weapons to target the chains instead of the Guardians, trusting the Titans to hold the attackers back. The first chain broke under concentrated fire, sending a shockwave through the entire system. The Guardians roared in unison, striking harder as If sensing the prison weakening, the second and third chains fell quickly, but with each one the distortion grew worse. Time itself starting to warp around them. Moments stretching and collapsing unpredictably, the crew fought disorientation as alarms. Screamed through the horizon finally. As the last chain cracked, a blinding light erupted from the seventh Titan, its voice thundering across every frequency. I have waited beyond the river of time. The hunger will not pass while I yet stand with. That it joined the fight. Its weapons unlike anything the others carried, bending light into lances that tore through the Guardians in moments. But before they could celebrate, the distortion around them shattered completely, and the Devourer arrived. Its true form no longer a shadow, but a vast, shifting mass of teeth, claws, and eyes stretching across half the view screen. Its presence alone made the crew's thoughts sluggish and the horizon's systems flicker. The Titans formed a spear formation, the seventh Titan at the tip, as they charged the creature, their combined fire striking deep into its flesh. But the hunger adapted instantly, sprouting armored plates to deflect the blasts and lashing out with tendrils that wrapped around the second. Titan trying to drag it into its endless maw, the horizon dove in close, blasting the tendrils until they released, while the other Titans used the opening to focus all power into one synchronized strike. The seventh Titan unleashed its ultimate weapon, a beam of pure temporal energy, freezing part of the creature in place, long enough for the others to rip into it. The Devourer screamed a sound that shook every bone in the crew's bodies, and then it fled, retreating into the void with impossible speed. But the seventh Titan warned it was not defeated, only driven back, and that one day the hunger would return stronger than before. Grant stood on the horizon's bridge, looking at the battered Titans drifting in formation around them, knowing they had won only a reprieve, not a final victory. Yet across the galaxy, word of the battle would spread. Humanity had stood at the edge of the end and had not broken. The Titans would remain watchful. The horizon would continue to roam the stars. And somewhere in the deep dark, the Devourer would remember the day its hunger was denied.